Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Andy Cruz versus Abdullah Mason. Should they fight now or should they wait? Now make sure you like and subscribe. Become a member to the channel if you enjoy the content. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Look, man. Why make Abdullah Mason and Andy Cruz right now? Now, Abdullah Mason, kind of on his way. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure I still want to call Abdullah Mason a prospect. I understand back in the day, he and Andy Cruz were named, prospects of the year. But when you really try to understand the criteria behind being a prospect, I mean, just how many fights, you know what I'm saying, are we allowing fighters to have and still refer to them as a prospect? 12, 13 seems to be kind of the sweet spot. 15, 16, 30, 40 fights. He ain't no longer a goddamn prospect, all right? And Abdullah Mason, to me, he's right on the cusp of getting a big opportunity. Now, will Abdullah Mason, and let me just share this with you while we're talking. Let's take a look at him. Prove to all of us that he is the real deal. 17 wins, 15 KOs. He hasn't lost. He's 5'9", 74-inch reach. Southpaw. Tall, lanky, fast, has good defense, has IQ. He looks outstanding. Now, the issue is, right, and I want to say this, I think the Top Rank is doing a great job pushing him because he's always fighting. He fought, I think that was the fight right here, where he fought Johan Vasquez. And that fight, he was able to get the KO in the second round, but boy, oh boy, did he have some rocky moments in that first round, didn't he? It had everybody on the edge of their seats. But when you see stuff like that happen, it just lets you know, although Abdullah Mason has, over 12 or 13 fights, he's still somewhat prospectish, and still has, some fundamental things that he needs to just, tighten up. And it's probably because he came in the fight super comfortable and confident that he was having his way for the most part, that he thought he was going to be able to get the opponent out of there, but the opponent had some life in him and some power to put him down twice. But nonetheless, you saw that he learned from that, tightened up on his mistakes, and then, about 3 months later, was back in the ring, put the beans on Manuel Jaimes, I believe is his last name, got him out there in 4. And now here it is, 2 months later, he about to fight Carlos Ornelas. And that's a 10-round scheduled fight. So Top Rank is really pushing him. But my thing is, when you look at a guy like Abdullah Mason, again, when you look at him and you see that he has already 17 fights, this shit about prospect, we got to hold our horses and stop taking it to the stupid, because the man is going on 20 fights. He got 15 KOs. He just needs his shot. Now, when you talk about a guy like Andy Cruz, 5 fights, 2 KOs, he's a prospect. The difference with Andy Cruz and with his 5 fights compared to Abdullah Mason's 17 is Andy Cruz, his amateur pedigree. He's not out here fighting guys who are just coochie-cooing him. They threw him right into the fire. And he's been rising to the occasion every time. Now, if y'all don't know who Andy Cruz is, man, he's the outstanding Cuban. Let me show you something. Outstanding Cuban amateur man who has a big win over Keyshawn Davis and was able to pick up the gold medal, and Keyshawn got the silver at the Olympics. But this is him, his amateur career. 135 wins, 9 losses, only 10 KOs, okay? So, again, even as an amateur, he wasn't really necessarily trying to sit down on his punches and knock you out. But I wanted to point that out to you because when people sit here and they're trying to understand, Andy Cruz and, let me click on this, trying to understand Andy Cruz and his 5 fights and why in the world would somebody think about taking a guy with 5 fights and putting him in the ring with somebody like Abdullah Mason, who has, again, 17 fights. Well, it's because you look at that amateur pedigree and what Andy Cruz was able to accomplish, I mean, it's going to tell you all you need to know about him as a fighter. And if you look at how he's been performing, he definitely passes the eye test. Is this thing running slow? Yeah. He passes the eye test, and I'm going to tell you right now, him and Abdullah Mason will make for a very interesting fight. Who wins that fight? Look, I don't know. I hear some people arguing that when it comes to Andy Cruz, he's more skilled, he has more IQ, and even with his 5 fights, they feel like he gets in there and he beats Abdullah Mason. The thing is this. I understand the expanded amateur pedigree and all the accomplishments, but Abdullah Mason is showing us, man, that there's something special about him. He knows how to use his range, he controls distance, he understands his God-gifted attributes that gives him an advantage over his opponents, especially with that height and reach, and he has power. He can crack in both hands. I'm not so sure a guy like Andy Cruz has the power to stand up to the taller, longer Abdullah Mason. Now, he does have the angles, he does have the speed, and he can hit you with shit you don't see. And see, those punches do the most damage. So I don't know if I want to really worry too much about the power difference between the two when you look at the fact that Andy Cruz is going to hit you with shots you don't see. And those are the shots that can really put you out. But the bottom line, man, is when we talk about the 135-pound division, that division ain't soft. I heard somebody say, 135, it's soft, man. Anybody can be a champion. You got Lomachenko down there. You got Tank down there. You got Keyshawn Davis down there. Zapata down there. Tevin Farmer down there. What are we talking about? You got some killers down there at 135. Okay, yeah, Ryan left, Teo left, Devin left. But really, Ryan and Devin should have never been there. And Teo, maybe he should have never been there either. Okay? But I think you should let these two guys, man, let that shit marinate, man. I don't think anybody should want to come out here and take two individuals who are still, in my opinion, quote unquote prospects. But that's a kind of, I've used that loosely for both of them because I think if you put them in with a champion, I think they can hold their own. I ain't gonna lie, but don't put them against each other. Now, create opportunities for both of them to go, on a divergent path to eventually converge in a fight against each other. That's what I think should happen. But they both since they become new kids on the blocks, they've both been turning heads. And what I don't understand is how come Abdullah Mason fights all the time and Andy Cruz doesn't? See, that's what I don't understand. I figure Andy Cruz would be fighting a lot more. There's something doesn't make sense, man. But anyway, we'll see. Both of those guys were outstanding amateurs, man, again. And those amateur exploits attracted a lot of attention. And as professionals, they've been doing the business. So anyway, we'll see what the future holds. I just don't think they should put these two against each other. Even though I know they would fight each other. I just build them up the right way. But if you're going to put them in a big fight, not against each other, at least put them in a fight where they're going to make a couple million, fighting for a title of million something, 1.5. Not against each other for a couple 100,000. Like, don't do that. Because if either one of them were to take a loss, man, that could really set them back. But it depends on how they lose too, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes in a loss you win. And sometimes in a win you lose. So I still think they got some time. Anyway, keep cool in the breeze.